Hey guys, so it's that time of year again where I do my year review. 2019 has been a very, very hard year for me, and I guess I'm just going to be real about it. It might be upsetting for some people. I'm going to put some pictures up because that's my reality. That's the reality of what I went through this year. 2019, I'm kind of glad that it is nearly over. And yeah, so here I go. So January, I was still in hospital from 2018, from that admission, and yeah, things were hard. I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And it was just hard being in this local psychiatric ward that I was in, and yeah, things were really, really tough, but I was plodding along. February came and I was still in hospital, and I was basically having leave home. Coming back, my bloods were all off. I would have to go to a medical ward to get them fixed or stabilised again. Then I would just go, no, I'm going back home again to practice home, and then I'd fall apart again. And it became this routine, and I just got so sick of it, and I eventually discharged myself, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I discharged myself. I wasn't in the best place, but we all just knew it wasn't going anywhere. But basically, I was home for a couple of weeks, and within those 2 weeks, I had 2 ambulance call outs. So I basically wasn't home for that long, and an ambulance had to come out the first week. I went into hospital. I was just really poorly. I got to a point where my bloods were okay, and I discharged myself. And my mum didn't want me to discharge myself. No one wanted me to discharge myself, but I was just in that zone that I had to be discharged. I didn't want to be in hospital. Didn't like medical wards. Discharged myself. Then within a week, I took really, really, really poorly, to the point where I was literally on my bed, dying. And the staff at my support accommodation were so worried. My mum was so worried, and it got to the point where they were like, we don't have any choice, we need to call an ambulance. And it was a very long day. I remember briefly being in and out of consciousness, not really with it. And my mum came, and I don't really remember it, but I went to the hospital again, went to a medical A&E, the medical ward. And this time they wouldn't let me out. I tried, but they wouldn't let me out, and I think my mum was just begging for them to help me and to get me in somewhere. So I had to be transferred to a different psychiatric ward because there was no beds in my local one that I usually go to, and I was there for not that long. You see, this is the thing, this part of my, from January to June, I hardly remember much. But yeah, so that kind of happened. And I ended up too poorly. I had to go to medical ward, and my blood sugars were all off. My ketones were just completely off, and all my bloods were just really bad, and they were trying to correct them, and I was refusing to eat, and they switched staff at some point to my one-to-one being my local psychiatric ward, but I was still in a medical ward. And basically I spent the rest of my time in Northern Ireland in that medical ward, being tube fed, taking out, being restrained. It was horrible. So March was a tough tough month. I already remember it. I was just on 1-to-1, on wheelchair, and I was just getting worse. So like April came and I was just getting worse. May came and I was getting worse. And we had decided, like quite at the start of that admission, that I was going to go overseas to get treatment. But I was going to go somewhere, but then I had to be a certain BMI to get to that, and I was waiting to find out if I was going to go there, and they took for ages to tell us, and then we didn't find that out, and then we ended up looking at other avenues, but we needed to get the funding. And while all this was happening, I was deteriorating every single day. Every time they tubed me, I purged. Every time I ate, I purged. I couldn't do it. I was so poorly. I was so ill, and my mind was completely shut down. I was numb to everything. I was repeating myself. My messages to my mum and stuff don't make sense. I hardly remember any of that time, and it was horrible, to the point where by June I wasn't able to wash myself. I wasn't able to sit up for long periods of time. I couldn't walk. I was on wheelchair from that whole time, but I literally couldn't walk at all. It was horrendous. I think it was just very traumatic for my family, and especially my mum and the people that love me. Who had to like wash me and shower me and look after me. It must have been just really, really traumatic for them, because they were watching me literally die. And literally I was days away from death, and I finally went to Glasgow, to this hospital that I'm in now. So when I was still on the tube when I went to Glasgow. I was on the tube for quite a while, because we didn't know, like we didn't know like how much we'd need to use it and stuff. So basically the first few months were really, really hard, because I got really bad refeeding syndrome, which I can do another YouTube video on at another point. But my legs I got edema, so my legs had swollen up to the point where I couldn't put any shoes on. And it messed me up, because I thought I was getting fat, but literally it's water retention. You could squeeze my leg and there would be a dent in it, because it was just all water, and it just moved up and up my legs to the point where literally it was up to my waist. And I had that for about 3 weeks, and it was the most torturous 3 weeks. I just didn't think it was ever going to go away. But I finally, it started to settle. I started to slowly eat. I had to do it in a very slow way, because it was very staged because of the refeeding, and it can be very dangerous. But I slowly started to gain weight, and started to eat downstairs in the little restaurant, and I was, on a table full of girls with similar issues, eating meals, and the meals got bigger as I was able to manage, and then I started gaining weight very fast. I got to a healthy weight the fastest I've ever done, and it was really hard. But the good points of that was that I was allowed to go out. I started on walks, and then I was able to go out by myself, with my friends, the friends I'd made from here. And I was able to, see what kind of life was like outside a ward. So I got to a point where I was able to eat on a different table. So it was like you start off in stages, and you're on the table, and then you get to, it's not promoted, but you get moved into like a table where you can sit by yourself or with someone, and so it's like kind of a bit more independent eating. And yeah, like with help with dietitians and therapists and stuff, there's groups I went to. I started progressing, I guess. But I found that my mental health was actually a lot worse. I was really, really struggling with the things that I've struggled with for years, but I've numbed myself. by October I was really struggling with grief. Like it's never hit me so much. Like the thought of not my dad not being here was just killing me, and I had never felt so much grief in all my life. Like it was so hard. But I think it was important for me to start to feel things like that. Like the only thing was I wasn't learning how to deal with it. I throughout my the start of the admission and further on, I struggled with a lot of self-harm, and I guess that's just like coping strategies. I couldn't not eat, and I was struggling, and like things were really, really hard. And as I was getting healthier and everyone was complimenting me, going, "Oh, you look so well, blah blah blah," I was struggling so much mentally, because in the period of time that I've been here, yes, I've got healthier and physically a lot healthier, but my mind is still struggling. The eating disorder doesn't just go away because I was a healthy weight, and I was struggling so much. And from October on, I just really started struggling with my mental health, and depression and anxieties, and it was so hard. Things were really, really hard. I was isolating myself. I wasn't talking about any of the things that I know I need to talk about, and I guess I'm still struggling with that. I'm really, really struggling still. But there has been some really nice times too. I've been able to go out, have overnight leave with my friend, and we had some nice nights out. So I was able to experience a bit of life, which was nice. But no matter where I went, no matter what I did, anxiety was still there. My low mood was still there, and yeah, it's been a hard year. But I've made some really, really good friends, and I'm so grateful for the times I have spent out off the ward doing normal things, enjoying time with a friend. Like this year on my birthday, I was still in hospital, but I was able to, go out and just have a nice time. And I guess even though hospital is horrible and it's just not a nice place, I have been able to live a bit. But I guess that's been my year. I'm still in Glasgow. I've had a few passes home, which has been nice, but very, very hard. And I know that this is a journey. This is a very long, tedious journey, and I don't know what 2020 is going to bring, because things are still really tough. I'm struggling still with talking about things, and I'm struggling with just my mental health and my other diagnosis, but I'm still struggling with my eating disorder and my eating disorder thoughts, and those demons in my mind haven't gone away, and I don't know what's the best thing for me. I don't know what's the next step, but I'm still here. I actually didn't think I would survive 2019, but I did, and I am very grateful that I got the funding to come over to Glasgow to get the help I needed. And I've made some precious friends, and some of the staff have really, really helped me and have just been so kind and loved me, and I couldn't do it without them, and I couldn't do it without my mum and my family, and I am just so grateful. So looking back, I'm the most grateful to my mum, because even though it's been such a hard journey. She has been there. She has been the constant that has been there from this whole journey, and I feel so guilty putting her through so much pain, but I know that it's mental illness and it's not me. I would never do that, and I want people to know that wherever you're at, mental illness doesn't just, it isn't a choice. If I had a choice to be free from all this, I would go for it. I would love it. I would love to live like normal 27-year-olds, and my hope is one day that I will. But right now, mental illness is just taking over my life and has done for so many years, and I just want people to know that it's not your fault. And that's what I'm so grateful for my mum, because my mum knows it's not me. It's not me choosing to cause all this pain and hurt and all that stuff. Like, it is an illness. It's a cancer of the brain. It's something that we don't have control over, and I want people to know that. But yes, that's been my 2019. Who knows what 2020 will bring, but I want to thank everyone who's been like there for me over this past year, and my New Year's resolution is to do more YouTube videos, is to get my YouTube channel to grow, YouTube channel to grow, and to be able to voice some of the issues that I'm struggling with, and maybe help other people to understand a little bit better. But yeah, thank you very, very much for watching, and I hope that your 2020 will bring you love, contentment, memories, and yeah, much love.